Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. A peasant and his faithful friend, a talking horse, must face 3 terrible quests to defeat a tyrant king. Today we will recap the story of the movie, Upon the Magic Roads, from 2021. On a calm, starry night, a trail of light appears on a property in a small rural area at full speed, revealing itself to be a magical horse, which is completely destroying the agricultural fields. As dawn breaks, the farmer rushes to the crops alongside his sons, and everyone is distraught at the damage done to the entire plantation. Their father tells them to stand guard the next night, but the brothers decide that only the youngest brother, named Ivan, should be in charge of this tedious task. With no options, the boy stands at his guard post and waits for any attack. A few hours pass and Ivan hears a horse coming closer, and begins to prepare himself so that he can defend his father's camp. However, when he looks back, he is shocked to see a huge creature standing right behind him. He climbs the observation tower and tries to throw the lasso at the giant horse, but notices that the rope is being pulled at full speed. Ivan tries to hold on to the ropes, but is thrown into the air and dragged like a jet ski in the middle of the crops. The demented horse then uses his supreme speed and runs even more, blowing away one of the towers, throwing Ivan up onto the platform, which has turned into a sled all stumpy. The animal then leaps into the air, and Ivan begins to float on top of the wooden platform. He is amazed to realize that he has passed the height of the clouds, but his amusement soon ends when the horse starts to descend rapidly and snaps Ivan in the sled against the ground. After the impact, the boy regains consciousness, realizes that the monster has fallen into the swamp, and rushes to his aid. Even pulling with all its might, the animal is too heavy and won't move. Then he realizes that there was a watermill right next to the swamp, and he has the idea to tie the rope to the wheel, and with this he was able to slowly drag the horse out, until he got it completely out of that place. Ivan runs towards the animal that appears to be exhausted and notices tears coming out of its eyes, which he imagines has been captured by enemies. The boy simply asks the horse not to destroy his father's farm anymore, and simply releases the creature. The huge horse neighs and shines brightly celebrating its freedom, and then runs away and disappears like a flash of light. The next day, the boy wakes up in a barn, and finds 2 horses in front of him. Then the boy hears a voice telling him to drop his weapon before someone is hurt, and notices a pair of horns in the shadows. The peasant refuses to back down, causing the creature to give him a violent beating by throwing him into the air and causing him to faint. Upon waking up for the second time, Ivan is greeted by a big snout, which belongs to a small horse with the amazing ability to speak. These animals have come at the behest of the creature released by Ivan earlier, so that he can be guided on an important mission. At this moment, Ivan's father appears and becomes enraged when he realizes that his farm is destroyed. The boy realizes that he is in serious trouble and tries to escape from the barn. Then his new friend offers to give him a ride and tells him to hold on tight. The demented little foal speeds faster than Toretto, tearing through the fields at full speed, and thus manages to lead the boy away from the farm. Ivan is impressed by the animal's agility, but the little foal tells him that it is just warming up. However, they have forgotten the 2 other horses behind and Ivan wants the creature to take him back, but the little magical dement has a much better idea. He starts whistling toward the farm, emitting a sound wave that travels all the way back to the barn and causes the animals to run from the farm to meet him. And so they begin to head for the mission town. Ivan arrives at the local market, where he plans to sell the horses to fix up his father's farm, and ends up catching the attention of all the buyers. The little foal tells the man that this was a bad idea, because he is attracting too much attention. And he suggests selling the animals to humble merchants, so he will make more money than by dealing with someone rich. But the peasant ignores his hint and decides to sell the animals to the richest man in the place, the king. What he is not aware of is that the emperor is a demented baby in an old man's body, who mistreats everyone around him. The demented old man goes to his bezel and observes the beautiful animals in Ivan's possession, and decides that he will take them for himself. While the peasant tries to negotiate with the merchants, everyone around him stands still and removes their hats. The mad king had arrived. He makes up the excuse that Ivan had stolen those horses, saying they were too valuable for a simple farmer, and so he orders the soldiers to take them away. Ivan realizes that his little foal friend was right and apologizes for not listening to him and losing the horses. The magical little creature, however, still has a plan, and starts whistling as before, causing the horses to run away. The old man orders his lackeys to pull him along to chase the animals, but they end up running into a pile of sacks of flour. In the midst of the confusion, the king's cart is overturned, forcing the demented man to look like a doll with a wooden leg, but in the end he stumbles into the flour. Ivan recovers his horses, while the soldiers disembowel the king's chariot, who is completely enraged that he has been made a fool of. He demands the peasant's immediate execution, but the military leaders recommend him to stop, since the boy has committed no crime and has the support of the entire population. The king tries again to trick him, and offers him a job as a shearer of the kingdom's animals. Ivan thoughtlessly agrees to the proposal. The colt tries to warn his friend of the trap, and almost draws everyone's attention, but gives a neigh and manages to fool them. The king takes the peasant to his castle and places him in his new role. But that very night, the emperor has a very strange nightmare, where he sees Ivan coming dementedly toward him while the crowd celebrates on behalf of the boy. The executioner then executes the old man, causing him to let out a scream that wakes up the entire castle. The next day, the king notices that Ivan seems quite popular among the people, and this makes him totally uncomfortable. He needs to think of a clear reason to execute the boy, and his general recommends that he give the boy a mission that cannot be completed, so that he can eliminate him for failing. The boy, as usual, ends up accepting the mission without thinking of the consequences, and his friend the little horse thinks that this is insanity, because they will have to find the legendary Firebird, and everyone who has tried has died a horrible death. However, it was already late and the two set out on their journey, the first stopping place being a mysterious forest. The little horse says that the Firebird loves a specific nut that grows in that place. Ivan sees the nuts at the top of a large tree, with animals resting around them. It turns out that this stuff is actually a powerful sedative, capable of putting anyone out, and will be very useful in catching the bird. They head for an oasis in the middle of the desert, where the monster lives, and wait for nightfall. Ivan picks up the nuts and throws them onto the sand so that they are clearly visible. A little later, they notice that there is something approaching from beneath the sand, covering the whole area with reddish light. A fireball forms, revealing the legendary creature covered in flames. The Firebird notices that there were delicious nuts on the ground and begins to quietly devour them. The little horse is sure that soon the creature will fall asleep. Just as they predicted, the phoenix starts to become dazed, and eventually faints. Ivan tries to notify his partner, but some lights begin to approach them, and a claw slowly grabs the nuts from the boy's bag. It's actually the Firebird has an ability to resist sedatives. The peasant lets out a scream and runs at full speed with the bird right on his tail. But the little horse jumps up and headbutts the legendary beast to save his friend, leaving the beast staggering on the ground. The phoenix gets up and flies toward the colt like a possessed chicken, trapping the poor thing with a wooden plate. Then Ivan shows up with a lame level 1 armor, and the phoenix fires a blast that incinerates his useless sword, making Ivan to run in fear. However, this gives the little horse a chance to dive into the sand and run away, but the phoenix manages to catch up with him quickly and holds him back once again. His luck is that the fire hen gets distracted by the nuts, and ends up pushing the little horse in the dunes below. When the legendary bird goes to eat the nut, and squirrel appears and pulls it under the sand, leaving the phoenix in a total rage. He unleashes a colossal wave of fire, turning everything around him into dust, and the pair of friends run off trying to save themselves from the fire. But they are eventually cornered by the creature. Ivan is forced to hand over his last nut, and so the phoenix devours it in one swift movement. What no one expected is that this time the Firebird went out and fell into the water. They really can't believe they finally made it. Sometime later, Ivan has tied up the phoenix, but notices that the legendary bird has stopped shining. He even lets out tears of sadness at being imprisoned. Fearing that this will kill the poor animal, Ivan decides to set it free, and so he pulls the net, causing the bird's glow to return and letting it return to the heavens, while Ivan feels good that he has made the right choice. The phoenix, even before it leaves, throws a single feather from its body toward the boy, as a way to thank him for sparing his life. The little horse soon warns that they must no longer return to the kingdom, as they will be killed for failing the mission, but Ivan says that the feather may prove that they have completed the mission. Back in the big city, Ivan is taken prisoner, as he has just given the king the perfect reason to execute him. The boy takes the feather out to prove his innocence in front of everyone, but only manages to be ridiculed even more as it is no longer on fire. As the peasant begins to be taken away for execution, everyone realizes that something is approaching through the skies and the feather is glowing again. It turns out that the legendary bird heard the boy's call for help, and everyone is amazed to see that Phoenix obeys Ivan. That was amazing. The phoenix begins to shine even brighter, causing the entire town to shout Ivan's name in celebration, and the king has no choice but to spare the peasant's life again. Things only get worse for the demented old man, for Ivan is in possession of even the schedule of days and nights, even turning the darkness of night into day. In this way, the general begins to advise him once again, saying that he must marry the princess inside the palace in heaven. This would allow Ivan to be handed a second impossible mission, and this time one that he would not escape. As expected, Ivan accepts the mission once again, and even his little foal friend is impressed by such dementia on the part of the boy. They proceed into the mission's icy mountains, and climb an immense wall towards the top, even though the little horse insists that they return. But Ivan refuses to listen, and when he reaches the peak, there is a large frozen walkway with an entrance ahead. The farmer even tries to advance through the gate, but is knocked down by the invisible force field. Fortunately, the little horse has played a lot of Pokemon and knows that by using the Firebird feather he can fight ice magic. The flaming item melts the entire icy wall, but also ends up dragging the little horse down the mountain. Even though the fall was violent, he survived and became just a huge snowball. Meanwhile, the boy enters the ice castle, and notices that many women are in deep sleep on their frozen beds. But it will be difficult to find out which is the real princess, but luckily for him, the flaming feather interrupts the clone's illusion and wakes up the real woman. However, before he can even talk to her, Ivan is met with contempt, for she is unhappy that a simple peasant is her savior. The princess runs to the frozen bridge at the entrance, and arrives very close to the cliff, and simply throws herself down from the top. Ivan decides to jump right behind, and in the middle of the fall meets the girl, who is using her dress as a parachute. However, Ivan can't hold on to her and ends up slipping towards the precipice, forcing the princess to glide towards him to save him. She even manages to catch him in the air, but the happiness doesn't last long, as he accidentally tears the balloon dress, and so they are once again plummeting at full speed. Luckily, they pass by the little foal that is stuck in the snowball, and the little dement jumps into the air unexpectedly spreading his wings, managing to save them at the last moment. The horse asks Ivan to hold the princess tight, for she is unconscious from the fall. And then they fly off into the clouds towards the king's city. When they get there, everyone is impressed by the success of the mission, and the king is terribly disappointed. The old man realizes that he is losing his power, because the people clamor more for the peasant than for the emperor. And despite the rich reward Ivan received for the mission, he is terribly sad, for his thoughts are only on the princess. He decides to visit the girl that night and climbs the tower where she is. The girl realizes that the peasant is there to see her. Ivan surprises her by giving her the flowers he has picked. However, the romance of the two does not last long. The girl pushes Ivan down the window. For the bedroom doors open quickly. A poor pirate tailor enters to prepare the princess's clothes, for she is to meet the king. The most curious thing is that the girl decides that the perfect outfit would be exactly that of the pirate. And so she enters the dining room with the unexpected outfit, and is shocked to see who the king is, a psychotic old man. She then has the idea to create a story to postpone the wedding, claiming that without her family's traditional ring, she will not be able to marry and simply that ring is gone forever. Ivan then rushes in at full speed and offers to look for the missing ring, and for a change, totally disrupts the girl's plan. The horse has already received the news of the third mission, but he does not know the place they must go. So he asks the stars for help, and manages to get an answer from the spirit of the wind. The little horse sees a specter of a whale flying through the sky, while the wind tells him that the object of the mission is inside the huge creature. The little horse begs the entity to show him the way, and so behind the clouds is revealed the ocean where the creature resides. The next morning, the flying foal leads Ivan toward the whale's location across the skies. Before they can find the animal, the boy runs into a flock of seagulls, plummeting from a gigantic height into the sea. Although he comes out of this unscathed, when he dives he notices something curious, several chains attached to a large island. Ivan goes to the surface, but realizes that he is in danger, because a huge wave is forming in the distance. The winged little horse realizes the danger and grabs Ivan at full speed. With all his strength he takes off to escape the immense wave and thus manages to save his friend. They head towards the island, which turns out to be a colossal whale. They land very close to his head, and Ivan realizes that his friend is trying to communicate with them. Luckily, the colt is able to translate the language of the whale, who explains to Ivan that it accidentally swallowed several sailors, and as a consequence the people decided to punish the creature by trapping it like that. The whale wishes by all means to free the humans, but doesn't know how to break free from the chains and even cries with such despair. Ivan once again has one of his insane plans. He will make the giant creature sneeze, and to do this he tells the little horse to go up the monster's nose. They fly toward the hole, where the whole place glows like a starry sky. Ivan tells his friend to use his wings and tickle the creature, scraping at the inner walls. This causes the giant whale to surge upward and break all the chains on its body, already preparing for the most powerful sneeze in the universe. The water starts flying towards Ivan and his winged friend, who shoot at full speed, and the whale finally spews a whirlpool of water out of its mouth, even throwing the two friends out. All the chains have been broken and the whale falls into the ocean finally free. Now she can release all the ships that were trapped inside her body, leaving everyone in great celebration. As the sun finally begins to set, the boy notices that he forgot about the ring, but the whale has already left for the deep ocean. But to his incredible luck, the creature has decided to give his savior a present, and a crab appears to deliver the mission ring. Ivan has no idea what to do next, since he doesn't want the king to marry the princess. When he returns to the city, he goes to the windows to visit the princess again. What he doesn't realize is that the king's advisor is watching him through the telescope and plans to attack him by surprise. As soon as Ivan enters the room, hands the ring to the princess and declares himself to her, and as usual, there is never a moment's peace. The guards burst through the door with a battering ram. With all the racket, the king awakens from his sleep, grabs his rifle and runs toward the balcony, from where it was possible to see the flying horse in the window of the princess's bedroom. The damned old man shoots towards the little horse and hits him right in the back, causing him to fall from the top of the tower. Ivan is distraught to see his friend lethally hit as he is dragged away by the guards. Already in the dungeon, the peasant is desolate, with his friend dead and the princess about to marry the king. Meanwhile, the princess a few knocks outside, and the next thing she knows it was a nice little tiny chicken who wants her to follow him. She stealthily follows the little animal and eventually reaches the little foal, which fortunately survived the attack. The girl tells the little horse that Ivan is in serious trouble, because she tried to save him by tricking the king, but ended up only making the situation more critical. It turns out that she convinced the old emperor that there is a way to become younger, and to do this he should enter 2 containers of boiling liquid and 1 container of ice water. The part he didn't know is that he would die doing this. However, her plan didn't work, as the advisor told the king to use Ivan as a guinea pig. Realizing that her beloved will die a terrible death, she tells the little horse that they need to add the right ingredients for the spell to really work. They need Phoenix's feather and the ring from the princess's grandmother, but the flower of life, which only grows in the far reaches of the world, is still missing. The horse promises that he will get the last ingredient by noon, but since his wing is injured, he has to run at full speed to complete the mission. The next day, the crowd gathers to see the execution of the peasant, and 3 giant containers are brought to the scene. The king arrives on the platform, and the guards lead Ivan to the cauldrons. The king says that he may even leave Ivan alive, if he can survive the spell that will be applied. But knowing his terrible end, the boy decides to confess all his feelings, that he really loved the princess, and nothing could change this. The old man gets even angrier and throws the boy into the cauldron, with the water super hot. The princess throws her ring into the cauldron, which causes the boy to fly through the air and fall toward the second cauldron that is filled with ice water. This time it was the phoenix that saved him, throwing its glowing feather into the frozen cauldron, which causes Ivan to take off. The peasant finally falls into the last cauldron, and now it is the final tension. The princess is hoping that the little foal will arrive in time. Thousands of miles away, the beast is running as fast as it can, coming towards a point of light, where it rolls over into total darkness. Little by little, the little horse returns to his conscience, and discovers that in order to harvest the plant, one must surrender his own life. However, the little foal just ignores it and gobbles up the stem. At the same time, a small dandelion starts to fall from the sky and goes straight into Ivan's hot cauldron, lighting up the whole sky. The boy begins to levitate in the air like a legendary being, while the population cheers and vibrates for Ivan. The princess stares in disbelief as the farmer floats over to her, so that they can be together again. Seeing that the ritual really works, the king jumps into the boiling cauldron, and a few seconds pass, until the king emerges inside a giant bubble, screaming with rage, which takes him to infinity and beyond. Everyone celebrates the fall of the accursed emperor and decides to choose Ivan as the new king. The boy still can't understand all that, and one more detail was missing: his best friend is still missing. In a huge field, the little horse is lying there, preparing to die in peace, but a damned fly won't let the poor thing rest. Ivan finds his friend, who is crazy trying to eliminate the annoying insect. The little horse tells the boy that he is about to die because that is what the flower told him. This causes the boy to hug him in disbelief that it would all end this way, but the princess soon explains that everything here was a big lie from the flower. She tells this to everyone who tries to harvest it, and only eliminates those who don't have the courage to complete the mission. Realizing that he will be able to stay alive with his friends, they return to the big party, with the rise of the newest King Ivan. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.